The Last Hope. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the ESS Vigilant, watching the endless sea of stars. Her weathered face reflected in the reinforced glass, dark eyes fixed on a distant point where their latest colony had once thrived. Now, only debris remained, another victory for the Helios Collective. Admiral, her XO, Commander James Rodriguez, approached with a datapad. The casualty reports from New Eden are in. He hesitated, knuckles white against the pad's edge. It's worse than we thought. Chen closed her eyes, letting the weight of command settle heavily on her shoulders. The Helios Collective had emerged from deep space 18 months ago, their crystalline ships cutting through humanity's outer settlements like scythes through wheat. Their technology was centuries beyond Earth's capabilities, their tactics ruthless and efficient. How many made it out? She asked, though she dreaded the answer. Less than 30% of the civilian population. The defense fleet. Rodriguez's voice cracked. We lost everything except the Vigilant, and 2 support vessels. Chen turned from the viewport, her steps echoing through the bridge as she approached the central holotable. The strategic display showed humanity's remaining territory, a pitiful fraction of what they'd held just months ago. The Collective's expansion glowed in angry red, an ever-growing tide threatening to swallow Earth itself. What about the artifact we recovered? She asked, changing the subject before despair could take root. Rodriguez activated a new hologram, revealing a twisted piece of metal unlike anything human metallurgists had ever encountered. Its surface rippled with impossible patterns, seeming to shift even in the static display. Dr. Patel's team has been studying it around the clock, he replied. They say it's millions of years old, but the energy readings are off the charts. And there's something else. He manipulated the controls, zooming in on a series of markings etched into the artifact's surface. These symbols, they matched the ones from the Chimera tablets. Chen's breath caught. The Chimera tablets, discovered in the Martian ruins decades ago, had sparked endless debate among xenorchaeologists. They told fragments of a story about an ancient vessel, a guardian that had protected Earth long before humans developed written language. Most dismissed it as myth, but Chen had always wondered. The Starweaver, she whispered. Rodriguez nodded. The same markings, the same alloy composition described in the tablets. Admiral, what if the legends were true? What if there really was a ship powerful enough to stand against any threat? And what if it's still out there? Chen finished the thought, her mind racing. The Chimera tablets had spoken of the vessel entering dormancy, waiting for the day it would be needed again. For centuries, it had been nothing more than a bedtime story, a myth to comfort children with dreams of an invincible protector. But they weren't children anymore, and they needed more than stories to survive. The bridge's main screen flickered to life, displaying Dr. Patel's excited face. Admiral, we've decoded more of the markings. They're not just symbols, they're coordinates. Chen straightened, feeling the first spark of hope she'd experienced in months. Where? A neutron star in the Perseus arm. The readings suggest some kind of artificial structure in orbit around it. Patel's hands flew over his controls. And there's more. The energy signature we detected. It's acting like a beacon, pulsing in a specific pattern. Almost like it's waiting for someone to follow it. Chen finished. She turned to Rodriguez, seeing the same desperate hope in his eyes that she felt in her heart. How many ships can we gather without weakening Earth's defenses? Rodriguez consulted his datapad. Maybe 3, including the Vigilant. But Admiral, the Perseus arm is deep in collective territory now. Getting there would be nearly impossible. Chen smiled, a hard, determined expression that had earned her the nickname Steel Chen during the early colonial wars. Impossible is exactly what humanity needs right now, Commander. Because if we don't find something to turn this war around, there won't be anything left to defend. She turned to the communications officer. Send word to Earth Command. Tell them we found something that might change everything. And then start calculating jump coordinates to the Perseus arm. Her voice carried across the bridge, strong, and clear. It's time to chase a legend. As the bridge crew rushed to comply, Chen returned to the viewport. Somewhere out there, beyond the countless stars and the advancing forces of the collective, an ancient guardian might be waiting. And if the stories were true, if the Star Weaver was more than just a myth, then humanity might have a fighting chance after all. They had lost almost everything to the Helios Collective. Their colonies, their fleets, their sense of security in the galaxy. But they hadn't lost their determination, their willingness to risk everything on one last desperate gamble. And sometimes, Chen thought as she watched her crew prepare for their most dangerous mission yet, the oldest stories proved to be the most true. In the depths of space, an artifact pulsed with ancient power, calling to those who would seek it. And humanity, pushed to the edge of extinction, was finally ready to answer. Awakening. The journey to the Perseus Arm took 17 days, each moment fraught with tension as the small human fleet slipped through collective-controlled space. The ESS Vigilant led its sister ships, the Defiant and the Horizon, through a series of carefully plotted microjumps, using stellar debris and radiation shadows to mask their presence. Admiral Chen hadn't slept properly in days. The artifact's pulse had grown stronger as they approached their destination, its energy signature becoming more complex, almost like a song played in frequencies beyond human hearing. Dr. Patel's team worked around the clock, trying to decipher the patterns hidden within the signal. Contact. The sensor officer's voice cut through the bridge's quiet hum. Massive structure detected in orbit around the neutron star. Chen leaned forward as the main display activated, showing their first glimpse of what lay ahead. The artificial structure was unlike anything humanity had ever built, a vast ring-shaped facility that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, its surface marked with the same shifting patterns as the artifact. Energy readings are off the scale, Rodriguez reported, his voice tight with awe. And there's something else out there, something bigger. As if responding to his words, the ring structure pulsed with silent power. A section of space within its center began to distort, and from that distortion emerged a shape that made every human on the bridge catch their breath. The Star Weaver. It was beautiful in a way that defied description, its hull flowing like liquid metal frozen in mid-motion. The vessel dwarfed the Vigilant, yet it moved with impossible grace as it oriented itself toward the human fleet. Incoming transmission. The communications officer announced, her hands shaking slightly. It's speaking to us. The bridge speakers came alive with a voice that seemed to resonate in their bones, neither male nor female, neither human nor alien. You have brought the key, it said, referring to the artifact. You have followed the path. You have proven yourselves worthy of consideration. Chen stepped forward. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Space Service. We've come seeking help. Our species faces extinction at the hands of the Helios Collective. There was a pause, and then the voice spoke again. The Collective. Yes, they have risen before, under different names, in different forms, always seeking to impose their vision of order upon the galaxy, always destroying those who would choose their own path. The Star Weaver's surface rippled, patterns of light racing across its hull. We were created to stand against such forces, to protect those who would grow naturally, who would find their own way among the stars. But our creators, they are long gone now. Only we remain. We and the choice we must make. What choice? Chen asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. Whether humanity is ready, whether you can bear the responsibility that comes with wielding power such as ours. The Collective is but one of many threats that lurk in the dark between stars. Our creators charged us with choosing wisely, with finding those who would use our strength not for conquest, but for protection. The massive vessel moved closer, its presence filling the viewports. Show us, children of Earth. Show us what lies in your hearts. Show us why we should wake from our long sleep to fight at your side. Chen looked around at her crew, seeing the same mix of fear and determination on every face. They had come so far, risked so much, She thought of New Eden, of all the colonies lost, of Earth waiting anxiously for news of their mission. "We're not perfect," she began, choosing her words carefully. "Humanity has made many mistakes. We've fought among ourselves, damaged our planet, sometimes let our fears guide us instead of our hopes. But we're learning. We're growing. And we understand something that I think your creators would appreciate. That strength isn't just about the ability to destroy. It's about the choice to protect." She stepped closer to the main viewport, addressing the ancient vessel directly. "We don't want to rule the galaxy. We don't want to impose our will on others. We just want the chance to find our own path and to help others do the same. If you join with us, that's what we'll fight for. Not domination, not control, but the right of all species to grow, to learn, to choose their own destiny." Silence filled the bridge. The Starweaver hung motionless in space, its surface now still, as if considering her words. Then, slowly, a section of its hull began to transform, revealing an entrance large enough for a shuttle to pass through. "Then come," the voice said, softer now, almost gentle. "Come and learn what we can teach you. Come and see what your species might become." As Chen ordered a shuttle prepared, she felt the weight of history settling around them. This wasn't just about saving humanity anymore. It was about accepting a legacy left behind by an ancient race, about proving that their faith in humanity's potential was not misplaced. The Starweaver waited, its presence both a promise and a challenge. And humanity, represented by the small group of survivors aboard the Vigilant, prepared to take their first steps into a future none of them could have imagined. Legacy of the Guardians. Inside the Starweaver, reality seemed to bend. Admiral Chen led a small team including Dr. Patel and Commander Rodriguez through corridors that defied conventional geometry, their surfaces flowing like mercury yet solid beneath their boots. The ship's consciousness guided them, its voice emerging from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Our creators, the ones you would call guardians, arose in the galaxy's youth," it explained as they walked. "They were among the first to achieve consciousness, to reach for the stars. But they were not alone." The corridor opened into a vast chamber where holographic images sprang to life around them. Chen watched in awe as the history of the galaxy played out before her eyes. Civilizations rose and fell like waves on a cosmic ocean, each one fighting for dominance, for the right to shape reality according to their vision. The Guardians chose a different path, the ship continued. They saw that true strength lay not in domination, but in nurturing diversity. They understood that the galaxy's greatest resource was not its energy or its minerals, but its potential for new forms of thought, new ways of seeing. The hologram shifted, showing beings of pure energy and impossible grace working together to create something. They built us, the Starweavers, to be their legacy. We were to watch over emerging species, to protect them from those who would destroy or enslave them before they had the chance to find their own way. "What happened to them?" Patil asked, his scientific curiosity overwhelming his awe. The images darkened, showing a terrible conflict that spanned entire galactic arms. They faced a choice. An entity had emerged from the spaces between dimensions, something that sought to remake all of reality according to its own pattern. The Guardians could have fled to another galaxy, could have hidden in the spaces between stars. Instead, they chose to fight. Chen watched as the Guardians sacrificed themselves to seal a rift in spacetime, taking the entity with them. "They won," she said softly, "but the cost was everything," the ship confirmed. "We were scattered across the galaxy, programmed to sleep until we were needed again, until we found species worthy of carrying on their legacy." Rodriguez stepped forward, his expression troubled. "And you think we're worthy? We're barely holding our own against the collective. We're divided. We fight among ourselves." "Yes," the ship interrupted. "You are imperfect. You struggle. You doubt. These are not weaknesses, Commander. These are the very qualities that make you worthy." The Guardians did not seek perfect beings to inherit their legacy. They sought those who would question, who would strive, who would face their own darkness, and yet choose light. The chamber transformed again, showing scenes from human history, not just the triumphs, but the struggles, wars, and reconciliations, destructive choices, and determined efforts to repair the damage done. You learn, the ship said. You grow. And most importantly, you dream of something better than what you are now. But the collective, Chen pressed. You said they've risen before. In many forms, across many eons. They represent a philosophy that recurs throughout history. The belief that evolution and diversity are sources of chaos that must be controlled. They seek to impose a single pattern upon all of reality, to create what they see as perfect order. The holograms showed crystalline ships similar to the collective's vessels, but of different designs from different eras. They are not evil, in the way you would understand it. They simply cannot accept any path but their own. And so they will never stop trying to remake all life in their image. Unless we stop them, Chen said firmly. Unless we stop them, the ship agreed. But to do that, you must understand what you are truly fighting for. This is not merely about survival. It is about preserving the right of all species to find their own way among the stars. It is about protecting the galaxy's greatest treasure, its capacity for infinite forms of life and consciousness. The chamber darkened, leaving them in a space that seemed to contain the very essence of starlight. We offer you more than just our aid in battle, the ship said solemnly. We offer you the chance to become what the Guardians once were, protectors of life's infinite possibilities. But you must choose this path freely, understanding that it will change you forever. Chen looked at her companions, seeing the weight of the moment in their eyes. They had come seeking a weapon, a means of survival. Instead, they had found a calling that transcended their own species' fate. How do we begin? She asked. The ship's consciousness seemed to smile, though there was nothing visible to convey the expression. First, you must understand what we truly are. Not just a vessel, not just a weapon, but a bridge between what is and what could be. Let us show you. As the chamber began to transform once more, Chen felt a shift in the very fabric of reality around them. The legacy of the Guardians was about to be revealed, and with it, humanity's true role in the cosmic dance of creation and destruction, order and chaos, past and future. Trial by fire. The Helios Collective's assault fleet emerged from hyperspace above the colony world of Meridian, their crystalline ships casting prismatic shadows across the planet's surface. But this time, they didn't find helpless prey awaiting them. Admiral Chen stood on the Starweaver's command deck. Though deck was an inadequate word for the space that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, her consciousness was partially merged with the ancient vessels, a union that had taken weeks of training to achieve. Around her, a small crew of carefully selected officers worked at stations that responded to thought as much as touch. Collective fleet composition confirmed, Rodriguez reported, his voice steady despite the tension. 37 capital ships, over 200 support vessels. They're deploying in standard purification formation. Chen nodded, feeling the Starweaver's anticipation resonating with her own. The ship had spent centuries sleeping, waiting for this moment. Now it was time to show the collective that the galaxy would not submit to their vision of perfect order. All ships, execute pattern starburst, Chen commanded. The human fleet, now expanded to 12 vessels thanks to the Starweaver's guidance in upgrading their technology, moved into position. They were still outnumbered, still technologically inferior to the collective. But they had something their enemies could never understand: the power of chaos, creativity, and choice. The collective's first attack came as a wave of crystalline energy, designed to break down matter at the molecular level. Chen watched it approach, remembering all the colonies that had fallen to this weapon. But not this time. Now, she whispered, and the Starweaver responded. Reality seemed to flex around them. The energy wave didn't just miss. It ceased to exist, transformed into a burst of harmless light by the Starweaver's impossible technology. The human fleet opened fire. their weapons enhanced by the ancient vessel's power, cutting through the collective's previously impenetrable shields. The collective ships reacted with mechanical precision, reforming their lines to adapt to this new threat. But adaptation wasn't the same as understanding, and they couldn't comprehend what they were truly facing. "They're targeting Meridian's surface," Dr. Patil warned from his station. "Trying to eliminate the colony even if they can't break our defenses." Chen smiled grimly. "Show them why that's a mistake." The Starweaver's hull rippled, patterns of light racing across its surface. Space itself seemed to warp, and suddenly the massive vessel was between the collective fleet and the planet. Not through conventional movement, but through a manipulation of reality that the Guardians had mastered eons ago. "All ships, execute pattern stormwave," Chen ordered. The human fleet moved in perfect synchronization, their paths forming geometric patterns that shouldn't have been possible in normal space. Each ship was connected to the others through a web of quantum entanglement, another gift from the Starweaver's technology. The collective's response was predictable. They attempted to impose order on the chaos, to force the human ships into patterns they could understand and counter. But that was exactly what Chen had been waiting for. "Let's show them true chaos," she said, and unleashed the Starweaver's full power. Reality fractured around them in carefully controlled waves. The collective ships found themselves firing at targets that existed in multiple places simultaneously, their perfect formations disrupted by spatial distortions that defy their understanding of physics. The human fleet struck from impossible angles, their weapons enhanced by technology that blended science and art in ways the collective's rigid minds couldn't process. But it wasn't just about superior technology. The human crews acted with initiative, adapting their tactics moment by moment, each ship working both independently and as part of the greater whole. They embraced chaos while maintaining purpose, exactly what the Guardians had sought to protect. "Their flagship is breaking formation," Rodriguez reported with barely contained excitement. "The entire fleet is falling into disarray." Chen felt the Starweaver's satisfaction mingling with her own. "Send the message," she ordered. "Let them understand exactly what they're facing." The Starweaver projected its message directly into the consciousness of every collective ship. "This galaxy is not yours to order. Life will not be confined to your patterns. Leave this place, or face extinction yourselves." The collective's response was immediate and unprecedented. They retreated, not in an orderly withdrawal, but in something approaching panic, their ships jumping to hyperspace in scattered groups. As the last crystalline vessel vanished, cheers erupted across the human fleet. But Chen felt the Starweaver's warning resonating through their connection. This was only the beginning. The collective would return, stronger and more determined than ever. They would not accept this challenge to their fundamental beliefs. "Let them come," Chen said, both to her crew and to the ancient consciousness that had chosen to stand with humanity. "We'll be ready." Looking down at Meridian, still safe beneath its glowing atmosphere, Chen understood what the Guardians had known countless ages ago. The galaxy's greatest strength lay not in imposing order, but in nurturing the beautiful chaos of diverse life and thought. And now humanity had taken up that torch, ready to light the way for others who would choose their own path among the stars. Inheritors. 3 months after the Battle of Meridian, Admiral Chen stood before the combined leadership of Earth's remaining colonies. The Great Assembly Hall in Geneva had been rebuilt after the collective's failed attack on Earth, its transparent dome offering a view of the Starweaver hanging in orbit like a second moon. "The collective has withdrawn to the outer rim," she reported, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "But they're not defeated. They're gathering allies, other species who share their vision of imposed order. When they return, it will be with forces that dwarf what we faced at Meridian." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Some faces showed fear, others determination. All of them understood that humanity stood at a crossroads. "But we're not alone either," Chen continued, nodding to Dr. Patel, who activated a holographic display. "The Starweaver has helped us locate others, species and civilizations that have been hiding from the collective, waiting for a chance to fight back. Some of them remember the Guardians. Some have legends of their own about great protectors who once kept the galaxy free. The display showed dozens of worlds, hundreds of species. Some were highly advanced, others just beginning to reach for the stars. All of them had chosen to resist the collective's vision of perfect order. The Guardians knew that no single species could or should control the galaxy's destiny, Chen explained. That's why they created the Star Weavers, not to rule, but to protect the right of all life to evolve in its own way. Now they've chosen us to carry on that legacy. Commander Rodriguez stepped forward, continuing the briefing. We've already begun sharing the Star Weavers' technology with our allies. Not all of it. The ship is clear that some knowledge must be earned gradually, but enough to give everyone a fighting chance. The hologram shifted, showing the modifications being made to Earth's fleet. Ships were being rebuilt with organic technology that could adapt and grow. Weapons were being redesigned to protect as well as destroy. And most importantly, facilities were being constructed to nurture the development of new Star Weavers, children of the original, born from the union of Guardian technology and human creativity. We're not trying to become the new Guardians, Chen emphasized, sensing the unease in some of the assembled leaders. We're becoming something new, something that combines their wisdom with our own unique qualities. The collective believes that progress can only come through rigid control, through forcing every species to follow the same path. We know better. She gestured to the Star Weaver visible through the dome. We know that true strength comes from diversity, from allowing each species to find its own way, make its own choices, learn from its own mistakes. Yes, it's messier than the collective's vision. Yes, it means accepting that not everyone will follow the path we would choose for them. But that's exactly what makes it worth fighting for. The assembly chamber fell silent as her words sank in. Then one of the colonial governors stood. What exactly are you proposing, Admiral? Chen smiled. I'm proposing that we stop thinking of this as just a war for survival. The Star Weaver chose us for a reason. Not because we're perfect, but because we understand something fundamental about life itself. That it has to be free to grow, to change, to surprise us. The collective wants to impose their pattern on all of reality. We have the chance to protect reality's right to create its own patterns. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every leader present. I'm proposing that we accept the role the Guardians offered us, not as rulers, but as protectors. Not to control, but to nurture. Not to impose our will on the galaxy, but to ensure that every species has the chance to determine its own destiny. One by one, the leaders began to nod. They had seen too much, learned too much, to go back to thinking of themselves as just one species fighting for survival. The Star Weaver had shown them a greater purpose, a higher calling that resonated with the best parts of human nature. As the assembly moved to formalize humanity's new role, Shen felt the Star Weaver's consciousness touch her mind. You understand now, it said, its thoughts carrying approval and pride. Why we chose you. Because we're stubborn. Chen thought back with a touch of humor. Because we don't know when to give up. Because you dream, the ship replied. Because you look at the chaos of existence and see not something to be controlled, but something to be celebrated. The Guardians believed that the galaxy's greatest treasures were its possibilities. You understand this in your bones. Chen looked up through the dome at the ancient vessel that had changed everything. The war wasn't over. The collective would return, and the battles ahead would test humanity in ways they could barely imagine. But they would face those challenges not just as one species fighting for survival, but as inheritors of a legacy that stretched back to the dawn of consciousness itself. They were no longer alone in the galaxy. And more importantly, they finally understood their true purpose among the stars, not to impose their will upon reality, but to ensure that reality remained free to forge its own path in all its beautiful, chaotic, infinite possibility. The Star Weaver hummed with power above them, no longer just a weapon or a ship, but a symbol of everything they were fighting to protect. And in its ancient consciousness, the memories of the Guardians lived on, watching as their chosen inheritors took their first steps into a future bright with promise and possibility.